Alrighty, let's quickly run through the pairs, starting with Euro JPY. Okay, mind you, today we do have a bit of high impact news circling GBP and USD pairs, so that's actually quite the lineup. Go ahead and check forexfactory.com for that if you are confused. In case you see sudden spikes or sudden drops in pairs that are crossed with those, at least you are aware. Okay, so EJ, I have my multiple engulfing sell zones over here, and then my freshly made engulfing sell fail meets and engulfing buy in the process of failing. Okay, so the current price is in the middle. So what are we going to do? We are going to wait for the price to either test any of our zones. As long as the H4 does not break the top of the sell zone or the bottom of our buy zone, then we can look for a sell from our sell and our buy, a buy from our buy. Okay, but if H4 decides to break above or break below over here, then there's a potential it could test a higher or a lower zone respectively. So in those cases, what we are going to do is wait for the price to retrace back into our key levels to look for the opposite directions, or we look for the next zones. Okay, so when the price does come into our zone, what do? We switch down to smaller time frames, starting with M15. If you cannot find any setups in M15, then go down to M5 to get an even sharper entry. That can also help align or give more confirmation while the M15 is forming. Okay, so mind you, M5 and M15 to look for your entries in these H4 zones. All right, next, GJ. A love-hate relationship I have with this pair, but let's see. Okay, we have our sell zone and engulfing buy fail meets engulfing sell and another engulfing sell. Now, because this is a complete version of ABC, right? A, B, and C. If the sellers are strong enough to push the price down even further, then we will have to wait and see if it's going to break our buy zone over here. Because if it does, then there's a potential it could go lower. But if the buyers over here are strong enough to support the price and push the price down even higher, we will look where it can go. Because if and as long it respects our sell and buy, it will go in a sideways until one of the zones is broken, right? Because if it breaks above, then it could test higher zones. If it breaks below, it could test lower zones. These are all potentials, right? Nothing is 100% in this market, so we are going with potentials. As long as it is respecting our zones, we can look for a sell from the sell and a buy from our buy. But you have to wait for the confirmations to form, meaning whether it's engulfing meets engulfing, EFEG, or your ABCs, make sure it forms itself completely first before pressing it to lower the risk of your trades, because not 100% all the time that it's going to go after the confirmation has been made, right? You still lose some, you win some, but the goal is money management, so check that first. Okay, so for beginners, like I always say, especially to beginners and newbies actually, make sure you set SLs, especially if you do not know when to cut loss or when to exit the trade. Okay, I suggest 40 pips from entry to set your SL, and this needs to be calculated, because if you are losing 40 pips, which is not much, but the amount that you are losing causes you anxiety or nervous or anger or just sadness, then you have to adjust your lot sizes and entries. Lower them down to make you confident enough to test the waters whether you win or lose. Okay, build that tolerance to the market. Okay, so that is for a GJ. Right, we will wait and see. And USD CAD, let's check. Okay, we have our sell zone, which is an engulfing sell meets an engulfing sell, and our buy, which is a sell fail meets an engulfing buy. Okay, I've already marked the key levels and everything, and you can see the price already tapped into the key level. But why are we not trading yet? I mean, you can trade if you want to, but I would suggest just scalping, or if you're gonna hold, then make sure you separate even if the price decides to test again and then you go. Okay, but for lower risk entries, because we do have USD high impact news later in the evening, and if you're not comfortable with trading against the trade or against the news or along the news, then wait for the news to be released first. Okay, wait for the news to be released first, and then you can see what you want to do after. All right, but that is for the 3 pairs. Please make sure, again, always monitor where the H4 is going. Okay, so that's it, and I shall talk to you soon.